안녕하세요. 운동을 해야겠는데 오늘 원래 턱걸이를 하려고 했는데 이쪽 승모 있는 쪽이 좀 근육통이 심해서 오늘은 팔굽혀펴기도 안 할 겁니다. 복근 운동 레그레이즈랑 플랭크라고 하죠? 플랭크라고 맞나? 이거 버티는 거 위주로 하겠습니다. 지금 비가 엄청 많이 오고 있습니다. 호우경보가 내려졌죠. 지금은 살짝 좀 소강 상태인 것 같은데 비가 엄청 왔습니다. 아침에 다들 출근하시는 분들 운전 조심히 하십시오. 저는 퇴근길이었는데 비가 엄청 많이 왔습니다. 오늘도 스트레칭 하면서 운동을 해보도록 하겠습니다.
President said last week, which he vigorously endorsed wearing a mask. He actually wore a mask in public for the first time recently. And so the question is she's saying masks don't work. The president said last week that masks do work. So he's even contradicting not just his own health officials, but what he's also telling people, and that it's putting confusing information out there. But the president defended sharing that post initially, and then he also defended those two retweets that came last night, the one that said that Dr. Fauci was a fraud, the other that said he was misleading the public. The president seemed to say he hadn't been reading those, but then of course he was asking, why is Dr. Anthony Fauci more popular than me, given that we are both in the same administration? And I think, of course, that speaks for itself when you see the poll among voters about who they trust more to give them information about the pandemic.
All right, Caitlin, thank you very much. I want to go now to Dr. Jonathan Reiner, Director of Cardiac Cath Lab at GW, who advised the White House under President George W. Bush, the medical team, and Dr. Ashish Jha, Director of the Harvard Global Health Institute and our national testing expert at this point. Dr. Reiner, the president couldn't defend the person, identified as a doctor who was in that video he retweeted, right? She claimed people shouldn't wear masks because hydroxychloroquine is a cure. And then he went on to talk about all these reasons why he thinks it's fine and, didn't get him, hopefully won't get anybody else. And then Caitlin, when she pressed him about it, he walked out. He said, I happen to think it works in the early stages. Well, many doctors think it's good. You're a doctor. Talk to doctors every day. What do you say?
Well, let's start with the science first. We know, I think unequivocally, that in patients with COVID-19, sadly, hydroxychloroquine doesn't work. I would love it to work. Everyone would love something like that to work. It doesn't work. There have been 3 large-scale randomized trials, the recovery trial, the solidarity trial, and the ORCID trial. World Health Organization, the United Kingdom, and NIH. All 3 trials stopped. The drug doesn't work. The fact that the president continues to parrot this nonsense is really destructive because patients will start asking for this. But I'm starting to worry about the president's mental status. His behavior at these pressers is becoming increasingly erratic. I'm really worried about this. We're in a crisis now, and last week this president spent quite a bit of time talking about his performance on cognitive tests. Today he's parroting this really debunked science, and then he's complaining about whether one of his science advisors has a higher public approval rating. This is really strange behavior. And we're in a crisis now. If we had a pilot on your airplane who started to lose it during a storm, you would hope that the flight crew would take over. We're approaching that level of concern here.
Dr. Jha, do you share that concern? I mean, when you have the president saying, I don't care what studies you put out there, what facts you put out there, and what Dr. Fauci said, because they're all consistent on hydroxychloroquine in early stages. He's saying anybody who's not listening to me is just, they're just doing it because they don't like me.
So Dr. Reiner is completely right about this. Look, we are in the middle of the worst pandemic in a century. But this is really hard under good circumstances, with clear leadership. If there's any way we are going to get through this without hundreds of thousands of Americans dying, and I guess additional hundreds of thousands beyond the 150 already lost, it is going to be driven by science and the scientific method and scientific approach. And things about who's got a higher approval rating, which doctor you like or don't like, is irrelevant. What's relevant is what is the science telling us, what's the data telling us. If we use that, we have a shot of getting through this. And I can't believe we spend this much time, because we get distracted by retweets of the president, focus on these things. We've got to get back to the science, and I don't think the president is being helpful.
So Dr. Reiner, the president today retweeted someone questioning Fauci's credibility, and I want to play some of what Fauci said when he was asked to respond to that. You know, when the president retweeted someone saying Fauci was a fraud. Here's Fauci's response.
I just will continue to do my job no matter what comes out, because I think it's very important. We're in the middle of a crisis with regard to an epidemic, a pandemic. This is what I do. This is what I've been trained for my entire professional life, and I'll continue to do it.
To the charge you've been misleading the American public?
I have not been misleading the American public under any circumstances.
I mean, that's a kind of a, just a horrible moment. You have the guy the president puts in charge of it having to respond to the president saying that he's misleading the American public, right? That's what the president retweeted. He just responded to that to George Stephanopoulos on national television.
Yeah. God bless Tony Fauci. You know, if you watch the presser today, it's really easy to understand why the president can't have Tony Fauci or Dr. Deborah Birx at that session, because he says things that are outlandish and crazy. And should the physicians and scientists be made available, they would immediately fact check that and refute the president. So what does that mean? That means the president can't have truth tellers at his press briefings. What more needs to be said about the status of this administration right now? Tony Fauci is a patriot. He has spent his entire life trying to cure the most dreaded diseases that afflict humankind. He needs all our support. And when you look at the polls, most of the public really feel that way about him. We need to get behind him. We need to get behind people who tell the truth. There is a path forward. People like Dr. Jha point the way forward every single day. This is all nonsense.
So Dr. Jha, what does Dr. Fauci do at this point? I mean, he's now having to spend time defending his credibility against accusations by his boss.
Yeah, so I think, first of all, it's very painful to hear Dr. Fauci have to even address this. I think he keeps doing what he does and what he's done his entire career. Speak truth, talk about science, and keep looking out for the well-being of the American people. And I agree. God bless Dr. Fauci for his work.
All right, well, I appreciate both of you. Thank you, as always. I appreciate seeing you.
Thank you.
The next Major League Baseball on hold as even more Miami Marlins team members test positive for coronavirus. Is this season over? Plus, a pioneer in HIV research is going to tell me the one thing that he thinks the United States could do right now that would have a major impact.
괴로워.
And Attorney General challenged on whether racism is a problem in policing.
와.
So you agree that there may be systemic
5초 더.
racism? You don't agree that
Systemic racism in the
3,
police department.
2, 1, 0. 마이너스 1. 마이너스 2. 와.
This weekend, Living Golf is back. Go behind the scenes with some of the most powerful players in the game. See what's ahead for the golfers and the tournaments as the season resumes following the lockdown. I'm Shane O'Donoghue. That's on Living Golf. This weekend on CNN. In association with Golf Saudi.
Join Anderson Cooper and Dr. Sanjay Gupta live for a new CNN Global Town Hall on the coronavirus pandemic.
We're determined to keep bringing you as much knowledge as we can.
Coronavirus, Facts and Fears, Friday on CNN.
hydrobatic, the Gambia's first professional female pro player. I'm currently in London, but one of the ways I make sure I reconnect is by playing my part and teaching my son. This is the way that we maintain our tradition and culture.
Connect the world with Becky Anderson.
Getting perspective on this region from this region. Bringing you the world from our Middle Eastern hub.
Connect the world with Becky Anderson. Tonight on CNN.
Coronavirus. To get daily news updates in your inbox, sign up for the CNN newsletter. Coronavirus. Fact versus fiction.
Tonight, Major League Baseball suspending all Miami Marlins games this week after multiple players and personnel, at least 17, according to ESPN, test positive for coronavirus. This news comes as Florida hits a grim record of deaths today. Nick Watt is out front.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is a glass half full kind of guy. Today, touting
A positive development over the last few months, which is generating improved outcomes and patient recoveries.
Okay, but today there were 9,210 new coronavirus cases reported in the state. 11 times the number reported the day Florida began to reopen. Today also, the state's highest daily death toll to date.
When you see those reports, those are probably reflective of infections and hospitalizations that have happened in the past, and that's just so it's more of a lagging indicator.
Meanwhile, the city of Miami now offering free tests for kids. Across the state, cases in children and teens have climbed.
We've got to get the virus down. We've got to get a contact tracing in place. We've learned that we didn't have enough people at all to sort of even call people up and say, you need to quarantine. Who else were you with?
Along with that Sunbelt surge, concern now moving a little north. Average daily case counts now higher.
Oh, shit.
Along with that Sunbelt surge, concern now moving a little north. Average daily case counts now higher than ever. In Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Tennessee, where, despite this plea from Dr. Deborah Birx,
stop going to bars, and indeed close the bars,
the governor just won't. Many places, this now also a major concern. Crowds of unmasked concert goers in Colorado, a drive-in chain smokers gig in swanky Southampton, New York, but people got out of their cars and mingled unmasked. Videos like this have sparked an investigation.
It was a gross violation of common sense.
New Jersey cops say they spent hours breaking up a 700-strong mansion party at an Airbnb rental.
You're looking for trouble. You're absolutely looking for trouble.
Meanwhile, 4 more Miami Marlins have tested positive, according to ESPN. All their games this week now postponed. The Yankees-Phillies series also postponed.
A team losing a number of players that rendered it completely non-competitive would be an issue that we would have to address, whether that was shutting down a part of the season, the whole season.
Nick, got a call of the nation's governor's Vice President Pence, talking about going back to school, right? And we saw Vermont say it's going to be all in person. Philly just say it's going to be online. The Vice President wants it all in person. He's citing, quote, encouraging trends in the Sun Belt states, despite what you were just reporting on.
You know, Aaron, we're all looking for encouraging trends, and yeah, in Florida the past few days, maybe the new case count has flattened slightly. It's flat, but it's still very high. It's still averaging over 10,000 new cases a day. If you want encouraging trends, look to Vermont. Today, that state reported 3 new cases. Nobody has died of COVID-19 in Vermont for nearly 6 weeks, and yet today the governor pushed back the opening of schools by 2 weeks. They're going to open now September 8th. Aaron?
Well, I guess they're going to open, which is more than you can say for districts now around this country, including where you are and probably where I am. Thank you very much, Nick. And next to CNN exclusive, Russia claims it's a Sputnik moment. They say they are about to approve a coronavirus vaccine in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks. Is it safe? Plus, Joe Biden says he'll choose his VP pick next week. One person in the running, Congresswoman Val Demings, is out front.
On our next Going Green, protecting our precious waters. South African surfers take on ocean plastic.
One individual can have a huge difference.
While in the US, turning off the tap on fashion's water pollution.
Now, failure is just not enough.
And building a cleaner Indonesia, one river at a time.
We can stop that endless flow of plastic.
Going Green on CNN, in association with Kirloskar.
Whoa, whoa. We need to be 6 feet apart when we argue.
This is the closest we've been in years.
This is CNN. More people get their news from CNN than any other news source.
청소기가 갔습니다. 뽀송뽀송해졌어요. 다시 운동하겠습니다. 골프가 속이다.
Business is all about making connections. But some connections are easier to make than others. With a CNN partner hotel, the world is always at your fingertips. CNN partner hotels, connected to your world.
어우, 시원이 아파.
I'm Anna Stewart in the city of London, and this is.
여기까지만 하겠습니다. 여기까지만 하겠습니다.
New tonight, CNN exclusive report. Russia claiming a, quote,